Welcome to the OSO Spurs podcast, where we are celebrating a 2-0 win against Nottingham Forest. And there's a lot to unpack in this game. There was some craziness from Bissouma, there was another Richie goal, and there was another injury for Spurs to potentially worry about. But today with us to discuss it all, we have Deej. How are you, mate?
Doing all right. Not necessarily saying I'm celebrating the 2-0 win, but I will say I called it.
And we have Johnny in Dublin. How are you, mate? Loving the hat.
Thank you. Yeah, it certainly reduces the glare on everyone's screens. So yeah, doing that for the punters, big time. I'm all right. But it's just really depressing. The cost of that victory. But yeah, we're going to be talking about that.
We can't be like that. We've just won a game of football on a Friday. We get to watch every other team play.
Bad. Nottingham Forest were
awful.
No.
They were brilliant. We were just good.
Yeah.
No, we'll discuss that properly in a minute. We'll discuss it properly. They had no threat up front, and I think we need to get to that as well. But Deej, I'll start with you. Let's get on to the officiating and that as a separate topic. But in terms of our performance, what did you make of it?
I mean, it was kind of a tale of three sections of the game. I was going to say a tale of two halves, but I'm not sure that that's entirely accurate. I think to start the game, in classic Tottenham fashion, we were doing very well. We were more or less overwhelming them. Really could have gotten a goal a couple of times to start out on the front foot, but we didn't take our chances. They played for as much as we'll talk about how they didn't have any attacking output. They had without like our guest predicted, a couple of moments of madness, specifically the one from Turner. They had a really solid defensive structure that was, of course, buoyed by being allowed to more or less kick anyone they wanted. But we didn't break them down, and then they grew into the game. And right around the time of Johnson's injury, Kulu being forced to move out wide and not really replacing him with an attacking threat is kind of ruined our attack because it cut off our siphon between our attack and defense. So we found it really hard to get the ball out of our defensive third and into the final third. So that's kind of why I think you saw Son specifically, I think, struggle today, because he wasn't able to do much on the counter because we didn't have the means to get the ball to him. And then as soon as he received the ball in the final third, he was immediately doubled, and he doesn't have that. His game is not going to be 2v1 dribbling. It's barely 1v1 dribbling. His game is much more predicated on incredible finishes and being quick on the counter, which is why I think he fits that 9 role in specific games so well. But I think in this game, I don't think that there was that we set up well for him to succeed on the wing. Richarlison, good game, good goal. Very good at being a nuisance. And obviously great positioning for the header. We'll talk more about Kulusevski later. I don't need to tell everyone that Kulusevski had a great game, because everyone can look at who watched the game will know that Kulusevski had a great game. Shame about Bissouma. Just absolutely an unnecessary challenge. Udogie, we'll talk about refereeing later, like we said. I don't think that was a yellow. I don't know. The game has to be a little physical, right? And
we'll argue about that one later.
Shame about Brennan Johnson. Hopefully he's not concussed. Hopefully it's just a head wound. But hopefully he's back sooner rather than later, because we can't keep losing players like this.
He was pretty still on the ground for a while, wasn't it? It did worry me, but we'll dive into that in a little bit. First, Johnny, your perspective on the performance. Anything you want to add on top of what Dee just said there?
I mean, there were definitely positive performances. Kulusevski's clearly a standout, completely in a different level today. I was really pleased to see Richarlison obviously scoring again, and he definitely has a bit of confidence fizzing along now. So that's a major positive, because we really need that. Vicario was incredible, other than his one kind of weird attempt to assist them at one point in the first half, I think it was. But other than that save from was a tough lower and towards the end was absolutely ludicrous. He is amazing. He is such a good shot stopper, and he's also the things we were worried about at the beginning of the year. When we saw him against Brentford, and the kind of the word on the street in Italy sort of suggesting he was a bit ropey with crosses and punching too much. Like, that's not really transpired. So that's another that's another game under his belt where he's put in a brilliant performance and definitely stopped goals where we would have conceded them last season. I thought Udogie played really well. I thought, obviously really unfortunate with the booking too. I agree with Deej. I don't think it was a yellow either. I mean, the ref was, I know we're biased, right? Okay. But they were an incredibly physical side, and it was just mad that we're picking up all these yellows and we're not playing anywhere near as physically as they were. So obviously that's a costly yellow, missing he's out for one game, right, against Everton. But that's a big, Royal come in and do a job, but it just means we're really on the bare bones again. So then you sympathise with Johnson because it's a huge game for him back in his, club where he's started his career, and to go off so early is such a shame. And just when he's kind of starting to show signs that he's kicking into what we were hoping to get from him. So I suppose it's a weird game because thank God we won. If we'd not got the 3 points and all of those things going wrong, that would have been really, really pretty awful after the Newcastle, because that was such a positive bounce back. And I guess, the Spurs fan reality check, maybe negative Nelly, kind of starting to sidle back in towards my psyche. And, I just look at Everton and I think, okay, Everton are on a really good run. We've got them next. It's also the pod without the presence of Deej, the four of us there. Sorry, Deej, mate. But the four of us are going to be there. Poor old Stu's going to miss a doggy, which is, I'm sure he's gutted about that. And so I just praying it's not going to be one of those, oh, geez, the one game we all get to, or four out of us get to, it's going to be one of those really tricky ones, because I would be a bit nervous. I would be more nervous, obviously, about Everton now. And what's this when I was thinking about the prospective lineup for that, I know we'll undoubtedly do a pod during the week, but is Lo Celso going to be back for Everton? What is there any news on that?
It does sound the online detectives of Tottenham seem to think he's going to be available, plus the ITK crew, but there's nothing official to say he's back. I guess actually right now Ange will probably have been asked that question in one of his interviews today, but it'll probably be in the embargo section. I don't know. We'll find out, I imagine, in the next 48 hours.
That's really significant, if he is there. That makes a big difference.
Yeah, it does. But Everton, let's not get too far into that head. I'm still at the phase where we've just won a game of football 2-0 away from home, and we won it on a Friday night. So now everyone else has to play, and we have no pressure on us. We can own some. They will drop points. Someone has to drop points because teams play each other, and not everyone can take 3 points. So there is. Would you have taken that win at the cost of those suspensions before it kicked off? I probably would always take the 3 points.
Yeah.
So but it's not. I get what you mean. It just takes the little bit of gloss off it.
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
like getting a fancy shiny new car and seeing a slight dink on the paintwork and thinking, it's so nearly perfect, but it's not quite.
That's
just
generous.
Okay,
it's like getting a new car and having 2 of the tires slashed and being man, I wonder what this car would be like if it could run it's intended to be run.
Okay, a car that's it's got 5. It's a lovely car. It's got 5 miles of fuel in it, and the nearest petrol station's 10 miles away.
There we go.
It does look nice though. But there's a lot of things to talk about still though. I thought it does sound like, by the way, Johnson's injury, that the media and the reports were saying it's not a concussion based on the pitch side, first analysis.
That's great.
But he will have to miss one game because you used the concussion sub.
Oh, okay.
It was used.
has said, I don't know, actually. It's because did we use our other 3 windows? Yeah, we did, I guess, with Feliz. But so I guess he'll probably miss a game, but Ange said that it was just a cut and it's not something that'll keep him out long term.
But we had this with another player on our first game, didn't we?
Romero,
and we accidentally used the concussion sub.
No, we didn't use the concussion sub with Romero. We tried to, but we didn't, and that's why he could come back the next week.
Got you. Okay.
We submitted the wrong paperwork or some shit. I don't know. It's.
That was it. That was a stupid thing like that.
Prem rules, man.
Yeah. And just to quickly, so I should have mentioned this earlier, but Johnny, you were touching on us being at the Everton game. I just want to mention this. We're all going to meet up for a pint, and we meet up with some of the people in the WhatsApp group and some of our listeners as well. So if you do listen to this, but you're not part of our WhatsApp group, you're more than welcome to meet up with us in the south or the east stand before kickoff on that game. Just follow us on Twitter. Jim Oso Spurs, Coys DJ, and Cali Spur is everyone's handles on here. If you follow us and just send us a DM, we'll give you the details of the meetup point and the WhatsApp group if you want to be a part of it. But going back to the game, that was the first time Richie has scored 2 games in a row in over 500 days. Is that right? Is that the stat?
This is his last 2 games with Everton, I believe.
It's a misleading stat, though, isn't it?
No,
because he had a year with us.
Yeah, he had a year with us where he's been injured off and on. I mean, he's looked a completely different player since his groin surgery. And you can just tell, I mean, he's still doesn't have the greatest first touch, but my God, is it not better than it was at the start of this season? I don't think that's arguable. Yeah, I think that maybe sometimes being injured will cause you to play at less than 100%. Crazy idea, I know. And with someone like Richarlison, and in the specific area his injury was in, I can understand why it may have been causing him more troubles than I'd say a normal injury. So hopefully he kicks on from here and continues his fine form. I'm really happy for him that he's finally banging him in. Long may it continue.
Yeah. And I think actually for once Neville said something. Well, he does occasionally get it right. He said one of those rare times I agreed with him. He said with Kane, you get a bit spoiled because he's just, no matter if he's in a bad rut or whatever, confidence doesn't seem to affect how he plays. He just turns up the same every week, and that's why he scores so many consistent goals. And even a dry patch, you just know it's going to come back. Richie is he wears his heart on his sleeve type guy. That bad ruts of form seem to compound the issue and get him into a difficult space. So, but equally, when he gets into these good veins of form, it has the opposite effect, and he can go on some fantastic runs. So let's hope it's the start of that when we really, really, really need you, Richie. Johnny and Deej, you two are going to agree, and I'm going to disagree with you here. Udogie's yellow. Yes or no?
I know you think no. I just, for all of my time watching football, I have seen so many coming togethers. Okay, man. I'm not that American. Next time I'm just going to say soccer just to spite you guys.
No.
Soccer with the U21s.
No.
But anyway, in all my time watching football, I have seen plenty of coming togethers shoulder to shoulder. I've experienced plenty of coming together shoulder to shoulder as a player when I played, even because I obviously play youth soccer, whatever. And it's just never been a foul. When I first watched, I was confused because coming from American football to watching football, you get you're used to this level of violence from football, and you go to violence from American football, and you go to regular football. This is why we call it soccer. But you go to European football, we'll call it that, and it's by comparison, there's basically no contact whatsoever. But there is contact. There's allowed to be contact. Contact is not inherently a foul. Contact, specifically shoulder to shoulder contact, that's the one area that's protected. And I don't think Udogie came in with excessive force. I don't think Udogie came in from the back. I think you can see in the slow motion up to the foul that he catches up to Yates before he lowers his shoulder into Yates' shoulder, and then Yates falls over because Yates wanted to get Udogie a yellow card, and he only mimed for a yellow card about 4 more times in that game.
Yeah.
But I just, if you want to call it a foul, sure, but to call it a yellow at that particular point in the game, given all of the fouling that had been going on before, just feels outrageous. That Forest were obviously given a lot of leeway to not pick up cards in the first 30 minutes. There's that clip going around of Son getting kicked about 8 different times. And nothing happened from that besides a spot kick. And Udogie, shoulder to shoulder, one time on like a chance where there's one other person within like close to the 18. I just don't see it. Obviously, I'm biased, but I tend to think Tottenham players will get cards. I did not think that Udogie would get booked for that challenge.
Well, just before I get Johnny's 2 cents on this, I have to pull back with the response that every Australian, South African, Englishman, Irishman will respond when you just said, when I come from American football, soccer's just not, there's no physicality in there compared to that. What about rugby, mate? We don't wear no pads, no helmets.
I'm not talking about rugby, though.
Yes, we don't wear pads, man. You want to play a real contact sport. I'm joking. It's just the standard response to every.
Yeah, it is actually, yeah.
But Johnny, go on. I think I saw some nodding over there. So are you on Deej's?
Yeah, I think Deej said everything. I mean, to be honest with you, like those happen all the time, and you don't see yellows for them very often. I just think it's just incredibly unfortunate. And if anyone should have been booked, it definitely should have been Yates for the gesture. And at the beginning of the year, they were getting cautioned pretty consistently, and I don't know why it stopped. But that fella, he got. Pardon?
Well, a certain German might have had something to do with that, who manages a football club in the north of England, as to why decisions have started going the other way.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think ever since that moment, everything seems to have gone completely flipped in terms of decision making towards us, but it might be complete paranoia.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bit paranoia. It's a bit that they do the thing that referees do where they have this new focus, and then 3 games into the season, they're like, everyone hates this because we can't get used to it in 3 games. I think it was a great change that signaling for a card is a card every day of the week.
I agree.
But then people kept getting carded. It increased the number of cards, and instead of looking at it and saying, you guys need to stop this.
It'll stop.
Exactly.
Stop it,
Exactly. And it needs to stop.
Yeah.
And in other sports, they were... Go on, Johnny.
No. I was just thinking about this shoulder thing as well. Like, I've seen, like, guys, that sort of thing happens near the touchline or the goal line, and the fella who gets bundled over ends up crashing into the advertising hoardings. And he's like properly damaged. And there's no consequence. Like, Yates went down. Like, there's no like damage to him or anything. It was just a robust challenge. But it's okay, maybe a foul. I didn't think it was a foul, but it's absolutely no way yellow, and it's just so annoying because of what that means when we've already lost so many other players for the next game. So I don't. Sorry.
No, you're right. It's the compound. It's the if that was just given as it, I think if that was just a yellow without the suspension issue compounded with it, I don't think we'd be that bothered. We'd be like, that's a bit harsh, but whatever. We'll move on. But we feel outraged because it's going to have a really negative consequence on our next game. But I kind of felt like it wasn't like if that happens 10 meters back, that's not a yellow card. To me. But it was just that one. I only saw it from that one angle, but the angle I was looking, he was pretty much through. If he was able to brush Udogie off him, or if Udogie wasn't there, he was through to create a really good chance. And that's the only reason I thought there's perhaps a case for a yellow card there, because he's stopping a goal scoring opportunity. Maybe that's.
Excuse me, sir.
Okay, I'm massively outnumbered on this one, but that's the only reason I thought maybe.
I don't think his position was. I mean, the way they were playing, and I know maybe though you don't take that into account if you're a referee, but I don't think that position was particularly threatening considering what Nottingham Forest did the rest of the game. And he was quite far to the right, wasn't he? He was a good bit out. And it's not as if there weren't plenty of other Spurs defenders who were kind of relatively kind of far the same distance up the pitch. I don't think it was really a particularly clear cut.
I think the thing that bothers me about Udogie is that over the last 4 games, I just went and checked. He's committed 5 total fouls and received 2 cards. That's just it. Like, I feel like every time he fouls someone, he's at risk of going in the book, and I don't know why that is. It's just it's with him and Romero specifically. I feel like every time they commit even a standard foul, there's just been this idea that they need to get booked every single time, and it's very frustrating to watch.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I don't think that anyone looks at Udogie though and thinks he's a malicious player that deserves it. Yeah, with Romero, I get he's got a reputation now for a multitude of reasons. Some are to his own making, some are not. And it kind of compounded together and caused him to get maybe a little bit of different treatment to what Oliver Skipp would get for making the same tackle, as an example. But there you go. What about the other card in the game?
There's no defending what Bissouma did. It's a red card. I don't know why they took so long to give it a red card. Yeah. I mean, I can understand that he was going for the bouncing ball, but still, at that point in the game, what are you doing?
Yeah,
It's really frustrating that we have to lose a player that way. I don't think there's really much more to say about it.
Is he the only player that's regressed under Ange?
I don't think he's regressed.
Well,
I think that's a bit unfair. I think that he's not playing as well as he did in the beginning of the season, but I think he was just having a really good start to the season, and now he's just like a pretty good midfielder, but he's not like the best 6 in the world, which is kind of what we grew to expect over those first 5 games. Some of that's probably due to Van de Ven not being there.
That's a good point as well.
He did start to regress as soon as we lost that backline stability. But it does suck that he's kind of dropped in form when we need him to pick it up, especially with Bentancur being out injured again.
He was very wasteful tonight, though. It wasn't him. There's a lot of loose passes and stuff before. I thought he had a pretty good game against Newcastle. The whole team did. But yeah, he was. There was, I think, the first half in particular. Other than like Dee just saying, and Johnson was still on the pitch. Like we were playing like we have been for a lot of the season. Really, pretty threatening. But once the game wore on, I thought that Bissouma was in particular, but there was a lot of misplaced passes and sloppy play, which maybe since the Wolves game, I think it was like the rockiest kind of form we've shown for really since then. It was quite nervy, and if we were playing a different side tonight, it could have been a different outcome quite easily, because I think there were relatively good performances in there, but we weren't great. I don't think Tottenham were all that good tonight, to be honest with you.
This feels the most deflating 2-0 celebration I've ever been at. I'm fucking buzzing over here, feeling like this is fantastic. I'm going to my weekend feeling amazing. Tomorrow I've got my first Christmas meal of the year. Can't wait for it. Spurs have won a game of football. Richie's scored 2 games in a row. Everything's looking great. I'm not that bothered Bissouma's out. I think he's been very average the last 5 games. Why not give Højbjerg a go anyway? I think he deserves a chance to show he can take that role until, and give him a kick up the arse. Shame about Johnson, but was he really adding much at the moment? Anyway, I think he's got loads of potential, and I'm a big fan. But
moving over though, if that's the issue.
The problem,
if Lo Celso is back, then I guess
here's our third midfielder.
Yeah, exactly.
If Lo Celso's not back,
we'll
talk about that. We'll talk about that later. That's not for a post.
No, it's not a pretty thought.
Yeah,
post-mortem.
That's going to be on Sunday's pod. Okay. We'll talk about
Sunday or maybe preview. We'll see.
Yeah. But next pod we'll talk about previewing Everton in a bit more detail. Was there any other topics? So I think that's mostly it, isn't it? Oh, we have to mention the defence, like in general, and Ben Davies in particular, for just being Mr. he wasn't some rock star there, but it's once again, it's just like
solid.
just missed. He's just like
really controlled.
I'm not going into Everton panicking about him being there. I'm thinking I'd much rather Van de Ven, but he's exactly what you want from a backup. Like he's just good enough just to get you through those kind of games.
It's so funny. We have this conversation as Tottenham fans like 3-4
time he
times
plays.
a season.
Yeah,
it's not because it's the wave. It's like he does really well, doesn't put a foot wrong, and you're like, oh my god, he's a great backup. And then he makes a mistake, and everyone's like, why is he not gone? He should have been sold years ago.
Yeah.
What?
No. Isn't the expression on Twitter, I'm done with the Ben Davies experiment or something like that? Isn't that the thing that people use? The experiment. It's not an experiment.
Yeah, he's a very capable backup who is performing admirably in the position. That's not his primary.
If he could play 38 games in a 9 out of 10 performance, he'd be winning Champions Leagues at Real Madrid.
Exactly.
But he's playing in Tottenham.
Speaking
as
of Real Madrid,
choice.
I see you guys have some center back issues in terms of depth with some players out. We will give you one gently used Ben Davies for 100 million. Great British pounds.
I like it. Yeah. We do need to most definitely though. It's maybe wonder actually in January, is left centre back as important as it was? It's still important, but now is that other position? Is left wing as an example? Well, actually, no, because now Sonny's playing there. Richie's solving a bit of a temporary number 9 problem. Are there other positions, though, that could be more important than that?
Right centre back backup.
Yes.
Right
is
centre
more
back
important.
Backup. Okay.
That's the number one position we need to look at, I think. Right centre back backup, a left-sided defender backup. I don't really care if it's left back or left centre back, but right now we have one player doing both of those things, and when both of those players are out, like next weekend, it creates some problems. And I still think a left winger that can actually dribble, break down a man. I think Son could have had Nico Williams on toast a couple times if that was Jeremy Doku out there, he would have had a field day.
Yeah. Right, guys. I think as this is just a mini episode, unless
it
was
really a
mini
episode anymore.
It's gone to half an hour now. But we've got to save some content for when we've got Sai back, don't we?
Absolutely.
And we got all this weekend's fixtures to talk about next week. But so I think we'll start to wrap up there. Unless there's any other final comments, boys.
No, I think good win. Wish we didn't have to do the thing where we have to figure out 3 players to replace for next week. Maybe 2 if we don't count Johnson, but I don't know. We'll see that future. But
so is that with the sub thing? Is that confirmed that he's?
I don't know.
Right. Okay. Because I read what Ange said, and it didn't seem to think from his answer that he was necessarily going to miss the next game.
Okay.
We'll see next weekend.
Yeah, that would be good.
Oh, and make sure if you are listening and you haven't subscribed, do it, because the next time you go on YouTube and you start looking at cars or whatever you look at, and the algorithm goes, you're not interested in Spurs anymore, you're interested in cars.
Cat videos.
We won't get cat videos. We won't get recommended to you anymore, and you'll never see us or hear from us again.
Oh no!
Unless you subscribe. That's right. We had
Jesus, lads,
30,000 people listen to us over the last 30 days.
30,000.
About that, yeah. Well, there'll be some overlaps. So some people will be the same, some regular listeners. But my point is, let's say let's say it's like 15,000 different people, right? Last month.
Right. It's more than go to the Bournemouth games, isn't it?
Yeah, it's decent. It's decent, but only about 3,000 of those. Only 1,500 of them subscribe. Madness. So subscribe.
Come on, y'all.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's over. Right. Anyway, up the Spurs.
Up the Spurs.
We continue to milk the Ange Goose.
Who are Arsenal listening to this weekend?
Continue.
Oh, who are Arsenal listening to this weekend? Arsenal.
Somebody has to. I don't know they're playing. Is it Fulham?
They are all Bright. No, is it Brighton? It's Brighton. Yeah. That could be interesting.
It's away, isn't it?
It's home for Arsenal.
It's home, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then they've got Liverpool, and then they've got West Ham,
nice. Okay.
And then they've got Fulham.
Oh.
Then they've got Liverpool again. That's a tough run of games, and then they'll start.
They're playing against the most informed team in the league.
True.
Fulham.
Yeah, people not Fulham, but 5-0 West Ham, 5-0 Forest, and they scored 3 against Liverpool before that. That's 13 goals in 3 games is pretty damn impressive. So come on, Fulham. Keep that form going. Yeah, until the 31st of December. Then you can be shit again when we come to play you. So, yeah.
No, we're playing Bournemouth that day.
Oh, so, yeah. Wouldn't that be lovely, though, to see Arsenal getting smashed by Fulham and us smashing Bournemouth?
Oh, man. Don't.
Imagine being ahead of Arsenal with all these players missing, knowing that the next week you're going to get all these players back, and on deadline day we've done a Levy special and we've signed someone.
You've guaranteed that at least one of our players is going to get injured in rehab and miss the rest of the season. Thanks for that, Jim.
Well, we just lost 3 players today, so I think that's done, isn't it? So we lose 2 more against Everton.
2 in one go. Yeah.
We're going to need to put Santa up front for the fucking Bournemouth game.
He needs to change his strip as well then, doesn't he?
Yeah. Right,
True.
up the Spurs.
Up the Spurs.
Up the Spurs.
We probably